Greetings, unsettled souls, and welcome to the Correct Views. It is Sam I.B. the Gangi doing political commentary for the media speaks. And it's that time. It's time for the massive Fukushima update. I do want to let some people know what's going on with the show real quick. Well, everybody gets tuned in here because I sort of did it right before I went live. First of all, we're going to be bringing back the Dunce Cap of the Year. I'm going to be issuing last year's Dunce Cap this year. And I'm going to give somebody the Dunce Cap of the Year for this year. Now, what I need you to do is to go over my last 2 years and vote on what you think the dumbest story was for the Dunce Cap of the month from the 1st of January 2016 to now. When you do, vote in the comment line of this video because somebody who votes is going to be getting something free at the end of the year from me. All right, friends, I want to remind you right before we get into it, one last thing, that this is listener supported. So you can donate at the correctviews@hotmail.com through PayPal. And every cent that you give to me goes towards a better show. Friends, check this out. This is from the Metro. Japan could pump million tons of radioactive water into the sea from Fukushima. Now, this matters so much because, as Helen Caldercott has said, the answer to pollution is not dilution. In other words, radioactivity does not dilute in the water when you put it in there. That is a misconception. Don't believe that. What happens is it affects all the life in it, which is why we're seeing a die-off now in the Pacific Ocean, the likes of which we've never seen before. It is happening with greater and greater frequency. And now they want to issue, release even more water into radioactive water. They have it stored here, as you can see right there, in these tanks. Thousands upon thousands of them. And now they want to, they're running out of places to store them. They're leaking, they're badly made, they're sitting in an earthquake zone. Well, listen to this, friends. Hit share, hit subscribe, let people know what's going on here because I've worked very hard to bring you this information. I don't even have a studio, friends. I'm stuck at the library doing this, and it's very hard. So make sure you support my work. After a tsunami devastated Japan's west coast and overwhelmed the Fukushima nuclear power plant, it has been revealed that radioactive water could be pumped again into the sea. There are 900 tanks filled with water that could spill if there is another earthquake or tsunami. That's left authorities with a dilemma. Experts have advised the government to carry out a gradual release into the Pacific Ocean. Treatment has removed all radioactive elements except tritium, which they say is safe in small amounts. Conversely, if the tank breaks, the contents could slosh out in an uncontrolled way. Well, friends, here's what's not being addressed. This isn't just something that's going to be happening one time. If they let a little out now, and a little out later, and a little out later, it is still going to be just as deadly because these radio elements do not break down. They continue to remain, which is why we can't even find a single tuna that isn't affected. Local fishermen have objected to the move, saying that the water, no matter how clean, has a dirty image. That's because it's dirty. They're lying to you about it being clean. It's not just their image. It's despite the repeated tests showing that most fish caught off the coast of Fukushima are safe to eat. Now, see, that too is a myth. It is not safe to eat. And this can be proven by the fact that the only reason that the numbers are coming up as safe is because after the disaster, they raised what was safe. Now, of course, it doesn't make it safe. So what it's going to do is jeopardize the health of people indefinitely, with cancers, with thyroid, blood cancers, heart diseases, all of the trouble that we know comes from this. And it's happening. Okay, it's happening to you. And I'm one of the only people out here talking about it. I'm trying to get people to pay attention to this because they're about to do another release into the Pacific Ocean, and it is not safe. The only reason it's coming up as safe is because there's a lot of big money behind it, friends. Remember that TEPCO is General Electric. Never invest there. If you're in a mutual fund, pull your money out as quickly as possible. Now listen to this. This is from E&E News. Fukushima radiation found in Hawaii fish almost half contained fallout from Japan's nuclear disaster. Oh, but didn't we just hear how safe it was, Sam? Yeah, it's safe, all right. This is from the University of Hawaii in Manoa. In the wake of Fukushima radiocesium inventories of selected North Pacific fish, 13 commonly consumed types of fish caught in the North Pacific and locally available in Hawaii were analyzed using gamma spectroscopy. Yeah, I can speak. Spectroscopy to measure Fukushima-derived and historic 134 cesium and 137 cesium isotopes. All fish samples, all of them, had detected 137 Cs above 90% confidence intervals. 3 of the 13 samples had 134 Cs, an isotope indicative of Fukushima releases. They can tell by the half-life breakdown. It was detected at 95% confidence intervals. The highest 134 and 130 Cs concentration in the examined species was the ahi tuna at plus or minus 10 becquerels. Now, friends, that's an extremely high amount. And I want to go over this because I have it in a minute, in case you don't understand exactly what a becquerel is. And I got more and more of you tuning in, thank you. A becquerel is a tiny explosion that happens within the body, within cells at a very small level. And each of these explosions can trigger damage to the cell nearby. If that happens, the cell may not die as it's supposed to, and it may start copying itself randomly and with great chaos. If that happens, we do have a name for that, and the name for that, friends, is cancer. While the plume has not necessarily reached the Hawaiian Islands, it did travel within an estimated fishing grounds across major migratory paths north of the islands. 5 samples showed the Fukushima tracer 134 Cs present above the critical levels and at 68% confidence level. So when they tell you that this is over or that you don't have to worry, I think it's very clear that you're being lied to. Let's check this out. This is from SF Gate, San Francisco. Earthquake swarm hits Monterey County, biggest felt in San Francisco. Now, it's not particularly news that California gets earthquakes, but I would like to mention what is news here. It can destabilize the nuclear power plants. Most people think of the tidal wave washing over the Fukushima plant, which did happen, as the cause, but that's not the case. It's not even close. What happened was, at least initially on one of the reactors, the earthquake itself caused the reactor. So what we're looking at here in California is a repeat of that. It doesn't have to be a 9.0 earthquake to do it. 4.7 magnitude earthquake and a series of smaller aftershock shook Monterey County Monday, officials said. 4.6 earthquake rattled. And one says 4.7, one says 4.6. That matters because it's a magnitude of 10. The earthquake hit at 11:31 a.m. and 13 miles northeast of Gonzales near Sinaloa and was followed by 9 smaller aftershocks, with the largest measuring magnitude 2.8, and Anne-Marie Beltre, seismologist with the U.S. Geological Survey in Milo Park, has said. There are no reports of damage. Beltre said the quake occurred along the San Andreas Fault, and they said it's typical behavior. Well, it wouldn't be very alarming and very worrisome if it wasn't for the fact that this typical behavior
Saturday, the general
is
who
happening.
oversees the U.S. nuclear arsenal told a security conference he would resist President Trump if he ordered a, quote, illegal launch of nuclear.
The big elephant in the room here is that we have built nuclear power plants in these areas where these typical responses are coming from the earthquake. So to imply that the earthquake on the San Andreas Fault is nothing to worry about because it's small, we know that it's hinting towards a bigger one. And we know that the entire area has been so terribly destabilized from other quakes that you don't have to be close to a 9. You could flatten these nuclear power plants like a rusty lawn chair under a fat man in no time at all. And we still have places wanting to continue running these dinosaurs which are dying all around us. Some nuclear strategists call for a bold move to scrap the entire iCBM arsenal. Now, that's not a bad idea, but when you've got countries like North Korea threatening nuclear war, you can't exactly get rid of your nuclear weapons and continue to be safe. Imagine it's 3 a.m. and the President of the United States is asleep at the White House master bedroom. A military officer stationed in the office nearby retrieves the aluminum suitcase, the football, containing the launch codes for the U.S. nuclear arsenal, and rushes to wake up the commander-in-chief. Early warning systems show that the U.S. has been launched on. Bruce Blair of Princeton, specialist for nuclear disarmament, who once served as an iCBM launch control officer, says the president would have 10 minutes to decide whether or not an attack, a reply would be happened. A snap decision would be necessary. Relying instead on two legs of the U.S. nuclear triad, a submarine-launched ballistic missile and heavy bombers armed with hydrogen bombs and nuclear warheads and missiles, the president would have more time to decide whether or not these subs could be used. So this isn't saying what it sounds like it's saying at first. It sounds like we're going to get rid of our nuclear arsenal, which would be nice, but we can't do that if other countries don't. And that hasn't happened since Reagan spoke to Gorbachev, which was good, but it's not happening. What they're saying is to move them away on the submarines, as long as you didn't, couldn't stop all the submarines, would be much more useful, because it would give the president more time to decide what he wants to do, because the rockets would be traveling less distance when you have moved them to a satellite submarine-based system. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I'd like to know in the comment line what you think. Please let me know, because I see you listening, I see you watching. Would that be helpful? People that know about submarines, is it something that could be dangerous in terms of being able to stop our ability to reply? It's an interesting idea. And that, of course, brings us to the dumbdee of the day. Oh, I forgot your dumbdee music. I got it. The dumbdee of the day, friends, where I remind you that there are stupid people in the world, and they're all around you. And it's also where I remind you that we're bringing back the dunce cap of the year. There we go. We're bringing back the dunce cap of the year, and what we're going to be doing is making sure that we highlight for the last 2 years what's the dumbest story that you've seen me cover on the dunce cap show. Let me know in the comment line, and I'm going to make sure that you get something free for it. And I'm also going to go ahead and cover the dunce cap of the month for last month and this month. So we're going to have a lot of dumbdees coming up, since you guys seem to like them quite a bit. Let's do some Russia talk. That's who gets the dumbdee of the day for not being able to find where a major nuclear leak is that is jeopardizing everyone. Extremely high level radiation in Russia is a mystery, according to CBS. Russian authorities on Tuesday confirmed reports of a spike in radioactivity in the air of the Ural Mountains. The Russian Meteorological Service said in a statement Tuesday that it recorded the release of ruthenium-106 at the southern Urals in late September and classified it as, look at this, an extremely high contamination. France's Nuclear Safety Agency, who is responsible for many of the cleaning agents for the water that we talked about earlier in Japan, actually, said it recorded radioactivity in the area between the Volga River and the Ural Mountains from a suspected accident involving nuclear fuel from a production of radioactive material. It said the release of the isotope ruthenium-106 posed no health or environmental risks. Now, isn't that amazing? How is it that we do this all the time? We cover something and it says there's no risk in this one, no risk in that one. They all meet together, and we're seeing cancer rates fly like the deficit under Obama. If they're all so safe, how could that be? How could they all be small and safe, even when they're described as extremely high levels? They're like extremely high contamination. You can see it right there. At the time, Russia's state-controlled Rosatom Corporation said in the statement there had been no radiation leak. The Russian Meteorological Office's report, however, noted high levels of radiation in the villages of Rostom-Mayak plant of spent fuel. Now, Mayak is where they had a problem before. Those of you that don't know about Mayak, it was in some ways almost as bad as Fukushima. Skin was sloughing off of people's bones. And look up Mayak, look up Mayak, Russia, your Russian nuclear disaster. It was not just Fukushima, or excuse me, Chernobyl. Well, it has happened again. Mayak, in a statement said on Tuesday, denied any source of contamination. The plant said it has not conducted any work extracting ruthenium-106 from spent nuclear fuel in years. Well, you don't have to do it for years. It could be something you made a mistake a long time ago. With the half-life that we're talking about, it would be like yesterday. Greenpeace said in a statement on Tuesday that it would petition the Russian government for more information regarding this, as they should. Friends, that's your massive Fukushima update. I'm going to remind you again that I'm out here literally by myself with a budget of nothing. I don't have a studio. I don't have a camera. I don't have anything. But what I do have is the truth, and I've just given it to you. So you give it to other people. You hit share, you hit subscribe, and please donate to the show at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. It would cost about $100 a month for me to get the net back on my house to the degree that I need it in order to get my studio back up, because things have hit this show very hard financially, and I could really, really use your support. Good night, friends. God bless.